Hello and welcome to Second Amendment Sis. I'm Steffanie Rivers with my co-host Phyllis Petit. Welcome to the show. Hi Phyllis, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
All is well, thanks. So, how's your week been?
It's been busy, a little hectic. Last night, there was a storm in New Orleans and I have family there. So my sister didn't get any damage, but I had some other family members that live in the other parts and on the east side of New Orleans, and they got hit pretty bad, but everybody's okay. Just, some structural damage.
We're good. I'm glad everybody, survived it. And I know this is the season for a lot of natural disasters. So
Mhm.
if you have family in the area of where they're having weather challenges, we um, we hope you're okay and hope your family is okay. And we want to welcome you to the show to get your mind off of that a little bit. I am coming to you from Los Angeles. I'm here on a business assignment, and
Mm.
Phyllis, you live in DeSoto, correct?
Cedar Hill. I'm in
Cedar
Cedar Hill.
Hill.
Yes.
Okay. So we are multi casting. We're on several platforms. You might be watching us on YouTube or Facebook Live or Twitter or LinkedIn. So we are expanding our reach. So we want to welcome you to the show. And if you're joining us to learn more about your Second Amendment rights, that's your constitutional right to bear arms, then you're in the right place. So we want to welcome you to the show. And although um, Phyllis, the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution states that American citizens are have the right to bear arms. If you live in the nation's capital, if you live in some other uh, states or in your jurisdiction, there are a lot of people, including attorneys, who claim that gun laws are so restrictive that they conflict with the Constitution. So, for example, if you're caught with a firearm in DC that is not registered, that's a felony offense. And even if you just have ammunition but no weapon, that's a misdemeanor. So if you live in DC, of course, you should know the gun laws. But the thing is, DC is called the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia area. So a lot of people, millions of people cross over into and out of DC, Maryland, and Virginia every day, multiple times a day. And so you now have to be responsible. If you live in that area, you have to be responsible for knowing the laws in those three places. And so it's only, maybe 20, DC is only about 20 square miles. So have you ever been to DC, uh, Phyllis?
Yes, I have. Long. It's been
Okay.
a long time. When Obama was in office is when I went.
Oh, okay. So yeah,
Of
and of
course.
course I used to live there for about 14 years. I lived in
Oh
the area.
wow.
Yeah, I graduated from American University with a
Hmm.
master's degree, and I used to live in DC and then moved to Maryland, and of course, went back and
Hmm.
forth. So millions of people do that. They commute in and out of the nation's capital from Maryland and Virginia, and that's why they call it the DMV. So
Hmm.
also it's known as the Chocolate City because a large number of um, 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 African Americans, sorry, sometimes I stutter, um, they call that area home. So we have with us today Galen Muhammad. He's here to talk to us about those restrictions. And he is not only the president of the um, Onyx Sharpshooters Gun Club. You're the area director, newly appointed area director for Maryland and DC for NAGA. So we want to welcome you to the show, Galen.
Okay, thank you. That's actually state director.
Okay, okay, so you're the state director for
Yes, ma'am.
Maryland, and then they've included DC since it's right there.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So tell us, a little bit about yourself and how before we jump into what your challenges are in an area like DC, Maryland, Virginia area. How did you become interested and attached to the 2A community?
Well, I guess it really started back when I was in the 11th grade. I actually joined the Maryland Army National Guard and went off to basic training after I graduated from high school. And a couple of years later, after enlisting in the National Guard, I became an officer. So I had the opportunity to shoot up all their guns. And
Mm.
sometime later, or during that same time, actually, I became a SPO, or special police officer, basically an armed guard, and they gave me a 38. So I shot theirs. I shot the gun that they had. So again, so when I left the guard, when I left that security company, I left their weapons with them. So I never owned my own
Mm.
firearm. So it wasn't until I guess it was 2019 that I was talking with the gentleman while doing the community service event with my brother-in law's church, and the gentleman had a magnetic sign on the side of his car. He said, um, you could actually conceal carry in Maryland, D.C., Virginia, and I said, because we don't, sometimes it's like a matter of you only know what you know. And I
Mhm.
said, well, you can't conceal carry in Maryland. He said, well, actually, you can, because if you want to protect your money for your business, you can actually conceal carry. And he handed us a card. Well, I wasn't going to take that card because I know that about 35 years ago, my wife and I had this agreement: no dogs, no guns. And that
Oh.
wasn't really a loss on my part because I
Mhm.
didn't have any guns of my own anyway. But we made that agreement, and again, I wasn't going to violate. But she reached out and accepted the card from the gentleman. So I said, okay, foot in the door.
Right.
Nothing happened in the course of a year's time, but about a year or so later, beginning of May, I'd heard about this black gun club, and I looked about the information because I was going to join the chapter in PG County. Because even though I had shot the 38, shot the 45 one time when I was in the military, I was, I qualified expert with the M16 in, auto and simming mode, expert with the M16 in auto mode, M203, which is a grenade launcher, shot the M60, shot the 50 cal. So I shot their weapons as
Mhm.
a qualified expert. But to learn how to really use the handgun, I really didn't know, um, and hadn't done that anyway. Any shot any gun since the 90s. So I was joining the club to learn. Come to find out, there was no chapter in Prince George's County. The closest chapter was over an hour and a half away. So I was told at that time I could actually form a chapter here in PG County, and that's what happened. So there was born on the sharpshooters.
So you're in Prince George's County, Maryland. Is that where you live?
Yes, in Forestville.
In Forestville. Okay. So how hard has it been? What so you went from you and your wife having the agreement, no guns, no dogs, to now you are the president of a gun club and you now are a director of the state trying to get more favorable gun laws. How did that transition happen?
Well, it wasn't a necessarily smooth one. I mean, again, going from having um,
Nothing.
not even a cap gun in the house to having actual guns in the house, to include a rifle, shotgun, AR. So, but it's been a slow progress, But now she has her HQL.
I was just about to ask her, does she have a
Yes.
gun?
Well, she doesn't have a
Awesome.
gun yet, but she
Okay.
does. She did take the HQL, which is uh, the actual HQL is a handgun qualification license, which is
Mm-hmm.
what everybody in the state of Maryland has to get before they are able to purchase a handgun.
Mm-hmm.
If you have military experience or military background or law enforcement, you do not have to go into take the class for that. It's just a matter of submitting fingerprints and applying online. But everyone else has to take a required class. And what was happening was in the beginning of us forming Onyx Sharpshooters, fortunately for me, because as I repeat to my club members, this club is not about me. I have smart people around me who were already owners of firearms, and what they did was I asked them for assistance, and they gave it freely. So we knew that, or I learned that everyone has to get this HQL that didn't already have one in order to in order to purchase a firearm. So we would do the research, found out where the HUL classes were being held in the area, and we were outsourcing until eventually I said, wait a minute, how can we become internally firearm instructors? I mean, I have some military background, a couple of others had some military background. I said, how do we become firearm instructors so that way we can give all the classes in house,
Mm-hmm.
everybody all around the county that we would never see reciprocated. So Um, we I found a course being offered by USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Association, and I found out that NAGA did part or does partner with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the instructor, what made it even better, he was in Frederick. He said he'll come to us, and that's what he did. So we had the class locally down in Clinton, and by September, we had at least 8 firearm instructors right here in the chapter.
Oh wow. So have you found that once you started on your journey and you started everything started to progress, how surprised were you at how heavy the interest was from others?
Well, so again, going back to the actual chartering date for Onyx, we were chartered on the 26th of May, and by the end of June, we had 52 members,
Oh
uh,
wow. That's awesome.
and we're currently sitting at about 200 right now, and somebody just joined
Wow.
today. So since
Mhm.
and that I guess that sort of the momentum sort of increased. I would say about 2 months ago when I sent out a random email just saying, "Hey to everybody in the state of Maryland," because I initially asked for a list of names and
Mhm.
contact information for all NAGA members in Maryland who were
Mhm.
not in a chapter. And the list, I didn't realize that the list was about a year old when I sent that email, and a lot of people um, weren't in chapters because the
Mhm.
basically what happens is somebody can go online, go to naga.co, sign up as a member, and they will get their um, welcome letter from NAGA,
Mhm.
and NAGA will plug them in and send them emails from time to time informing them of things that are going on. But it's not mandatory that everybody in NAGA must be in a chapter, and that's as far as they usually get. So in other words, they're plugged in nationally, but locally they're
Mhm.
not. So they don't know
Mm.
what's going on. They don't know it's a chapter in the area. They can go onto the site and they can do the research and see that there's a chapter in the area. But I know I have made the suggestion that there be some form of a mechanism in place where a chapter president reaches out to that new member and invites them
Mhm.
to the chapter. And basically, that's what I was doing. And of course, we have I learned that we have members in Maryland as far east as the Eastern Shore, and all the way over to Washington County. So we're talking about over near, not too far if you're familiar with where Frostburg is.
Hmm.
So it's almost to Allegheny County. So we have, I think it's Allegheny and another county, I can't think of it, Garrett, I believe. So we have two counties in Maryland on that western tip over near West Virginia where there aren't any members yet. Uh,
Mhm.
but pretty much all scattered throughout the middle of Maryland, we have about 900 members.
Wow, yeah, I've been to Frostburg University, I think,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
some type of retreat. And I thought, well, the black people I was with, we were the only one in the area. So I guess, it was some black people there, huh?
There's some. Well, again, it doesn't go into that, and that's Allegheny County. It doesn't quite go that far yet, but it goes to the next county, to the closer county, Washington County, and there are some members there. In fact, um, since I found out that there are members, and the vast majority of the responses that I got were all positive. Of the 615 emails that I sent on that day, I did have one negative response, but everybody else was positive. Everybody.
Mhm.
And the vast majority of them, hey, where are you? Where is your chapter? They,
Mhm.
most of them want to be plugged into chapters because,
Yeah.
again, to have a national connection with no local connection, most people aren't going to jump on an airplane and fly down to Atlanta. I mean, that's just not
Yeah,
going to
it's
happen.
not reasonable to expect that they
Right.
would either.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's why I stand firm by the belief that every most members want to be plugged into a local chapter because when they have events, they're going to be local and they can have ease of access to those events.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
then it makes so you I know as a member myself of NAGA, a lot of I know I saw where they were pushing or they were going to start having a virtual membership.
Yeah,
And so I'm not quite sure what the virtual, what that entails. But so you're saying that if someone comes into the national, as if they come to the national level as a member, then wherever they're located, their information will kind of be sent to a local chapter in their area so they can hook up locally and get the training in their area, and they could just start locally and then be connected to the uh, national chapter, which I think is a good idea because, like you said, we want people to be not just members in on a card, or
Mhm.
members virtually. We want them to be trained and be, connected to the 2A community, and so they can be, prepared for whatever, and be in the know, and not just to say, yeah, I have a card, I'm with NAGA, and get a magazine, and but
right,
to be active.
To be active members of an organization that they can refer to, or when they need something, when they
yeah,
need resources, training, education, um, just the overall fellowship.
right,
You know,
exactly,
yes,
exactly. And I
yes.
and I tell new members or potential members, I say, well, one of the main purposes behind being plugged into a chapter excuse me, plugged into a chapter is being around and being connected with like-minded people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one of the going back to the virtual chapter per se, you mentioned that goal of the virtual chapter is to connect them and plug them into an actual chapter. So um, one of the first things I did when I was given this title and position was I started looking for people who uh, want to help me and help us plug those members in. So
Mm-hmm.
I found people in Frederick County, Montgomery County, um, Charles County, and Anne Arundel, and helping. They're helping me to actually plug people in. What I'm going to do is, what I'm working on doing, I should say, is getting Carroll County and Washington County, which is the one to the east and the west. of Frederick County, and having that Frederick County chapter bring those other two chapters up to a point where they can be self-running, self-sustaining chapters on their own. The same thing with Hartford County. I have somebody up there I'm working with to help with Cecil County. I have a gentleman in Annapolis, which is in Anne Arundel County. I'm having him. He's going to be working with the people that's on the Eastern Shore. So we're plugging people in again
Mhm.
because again, I believe that everywhere we have, especially a large contingent of members, we should have a chapter.
Right. So is that why you became a firearms instructor to help to facilitate the training? And this is you. Is this you doing some training? And what type of weapon is that?
Oh, that's one of my handguns. That's a Sig Sauer. That's the it's an older model, but it's a 45. Still works. And I actually became
Say old or new, it still works.
yes, man, it does. And I actually became an instructor because again, with my military background, even though it was back in the 90s, I knew that there was no need to outsource um, that training because if it's training that we can learn internally and then share with others, I knew we could do it. And in fact, one of our instructors, Henry Williams, he's not only prior Navy, but he was also a firearm instructor while he was in the Navy. So again, we have the talent. I knew we had the talent within our chapter to accomplish that. So we went ahead, went to that course, became certified, and some of us not only are certified with USCCA but NRA as well. Because what
Yes.
happens is, particularly in Virginia, Virginia doesn't necessarily recognize USCCA. So
They don't recognize what?
USCCA,
Oh,
United States
really?
Military, right?
Huh. So now, so that's another thing. In different jurisdictions, they don't recognize certain
So,
training.
so the NRA is the old guard,
Mhm.
and USCCA is the new kid on the block.
Oh,
Hmm.
So,
okay.
in fact, in order to be a Utah concealed carry instructor, an instructor has to fly out or has to be physically be in Utah. No matter where you are in the U.S., you have to physically be in Utah to get the training from the proctors of the class, and then they'll give you all the information. They'll certify you, and it's like you have the background investigation, everything, just like you're getting a firearm,
Hmm.
and you get that, but you have to physically be in Utah in order to be an instructor. And their criteria at first was you had to be NRA certified. And when I got there this past March, last March it is, um, I went out there and I showed the young lady our PowerPoint presentation that USCCA already had made for that presentation. I said, it's exactly the same presentation that you just showed us here. And she was over impressed. She was like, wow, really? I didn't know that. We were talking about bringing them on board and making them part of our criteria as well. And after I followed up with her when I returned home about 2 weeks later, USCCA was added as criteria uh, that qualifies the person, the instructor, to teach their course. And the same, in fact, it was just late last year, Arizona did the same thing because initially you had to be NRA certified. Now it could be NRA or USCCA.
Hmm. So it seems like, in addition to having weapons training and being able to train people, you have to be adept with knowing what's going on in the with the law. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your experience dealing with legislative issues? And because you said as the area as a state director, you are now working with Maryland state legislators to support a bill, trying to get them to support a bill that will enable all law abiding Marylanders to apply for and receive the concealed carry and wear and carry permit. So, like, that's a whole nother, that's a full time job right there, right?
It feels like it, but I'm gonna give myself a rating of a two because this is, like I said, this is a brand new position for me, and I'm still brand new at it. I know that we have organizations in Maryland already fighting for those things. So I'm a firm believer in not trying to reinvent the wheel. So I've actually reached out to them to say, hey, what are you all doing? And, now I actually I saw a YouTube video just the other day where they did give testimony for our state Senate. And it's really interesting because most of us get involved with this, and we know that there is an education process. It's not just, we're teaching about firearms, we're teaching about firearms safety. We're also dispelling rumors and myths about firearms.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny to see someone who's been elected to office have those same myths and things in his head where, and one in particular that spoke during the testimony. And it's just that they have their biases, and
Mm-hmm.
you know they have just negative, 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 and they have their view, but they don't want to hear anybody else's view. So, like I said, I give myself a two because I'm new, but I am learning. I know that right now there is a Senate bill that was drafted earlier this year that will allow, all law-abiding citizens, if they choose to conceal carry, if it passes. But we have to actively contact our state senators, most of whom happen to be Democrats. But we have to reach them, let them know, hey, this is what we want. I know
Exactly.
you may be opposed to, you know, handguns, and you may be opposed to. I said, but I don't think you really are because, as I understand it, you have the ability to protect yourself and your family away from home. But you,
Exactly. They have free
right,
security at their
right,
disposal.
right.
Yeah, 24 hours.
Mhm.
So
But in
they
the
don't
meantime,
worry about the same things that we worry about.
hmm but in the
Hmm.
meantime, but they're denying their constituents that same freedom.
Well,
And
vote them out, I say.
yeah, well, that's what
You
they,
know,
that's what they. So when I wrote my state senator, um, she had her aide write me back, and her aide told me that the senator will keep your testimony in mind. So I said, okay. So I wrote back and I said, well, I don't want my senator to keep my testimony in mind. I want my senator to act upon my testimony.
exactly. I
Exactly.
want, and I'll keep her name on the ballot in mind when I get ready to go check it
Hmm
off
I,
or
I,
not.
I didn't want to say that just yet because I was advised that I should now give a call to her and
Yeah.
and go that
And
route.
advise your constituents to everybody start calling her.
Oh, that's already done. So
Yeah.
I put that out to the current chapter presidents. I'm waiting for the my potential chapter presidents to come on board. And once they do that, I'm gonna have them reach out to those members that are in Maryland that will be in their chapters and have them do the same. Um, because we all need to reach out to our state senators because I can guarantee that a vast majority of them don't know that they have constituents who have firearms and they want to conceal carry. They want to have the same freedoms that they have and be able to
Hmm.
protect their families away from home just like they can do that.
Hmm. And I think that's so selfish.
Hmm
We voted you in to speak for us, but you're placing your own selfish, whatever, opinions, needs, beliefs before the people that you are working for, that you should
Right.
be working for. And that's what grinds my gears because they say whatever they need to get in there. And then when it's time for them to do what we voted them in for to do, they don't. And then they ignore you. That grinds my gears.
And they're
And that's
supposed
why
to be
politicians and they wonder why we don't trust them
right.
and and why so many people have given up on voting because they feel like we give and we don't get anything back, you know. And I mean, they at our church and they
Yeah.
handing out this and that, when they want the vote, but after that, you don't see them. You don't
Never
see
again.
it.
Never again.
Mm-mm. Yeah, we got to lock that down. We really got to lock that down and be
Definitely.
adamant about it. Now you're going to give us something first because all this, you know, go on and vote for me and then I'll do that later. No, no, no. We have to find a way to get what we want up front.
Tangibles.
Yes.
We need
And
tangibles.
these empty promises, they out there selling pipe dreams and not giving anything back.
Right.
And then have the nerve to have someone else say, she'll keep it in mind.
No, no. Mm-mm. And
Yeah.
that's why I wrote back and said exactly what I said verbatim. No, no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want her to keep it in mind. I want her
Mm-hmm.
to act upon it.
Yeah,
I said,
you can keep it
and
in mind. She
further,
needs to act, Miss Aid.
and I said further, as the state director of Maryland, because I didn't want to even mention D.C. at the time, I said,
Mm-hmm.
because I am the state director for Maryland, I don't represent myself. I represent hundreds and thousands of people in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And if nothing else, everybody that's in her jurisdiction.
Yeah, and then if you and your constituents just so happen to be in the area and decide to visit her office
Mm,
and inundate them with your presence, you know, and invite a couple of news stations, just you know,
right,
you never know what could
right,
happen. We have to apply some pressure. We
right.
do. And I'm talking like I live there, but it's the same everywhere for us. And they want
True.
to keep that narrative out there, to keep the guns out of the hands of the Black 2A community. But that's a done deal. That's a done deal. We're
And they
all over.
think, and they think that by doing so, that they're taking guns from criminals
Right.
somehow.
We're not the criminals.
No, we're
Because
not.
they equate us
Hmm.
as criminals, and it's just not the case. And that leads me to the next question, Galen. In that you said you were a special a police officer.
I will.
Um, and so how has your perspective changed from being a part of law enforcement, looking out at the community and the gun laws, and now you're not a part of the law enforcement, and now you're on this side? What do how if at all has your perspective changed?
Well, my perspective hasn't changed. I mean, my perspective is still the same. Uh, I know that there are biases in law enforcement, but again, like I said, to be clear, I was just an armed security guard, which is an SPO. So I wasn't a police officer. My arrest authority was limited to where I was assigned, and I never had to arrest anyone, so that never happened. But I still had that authority on my post. Um, but my perspective hasn't changed. I mean, I didn't. There are things that I know today that I didn't then, but my perspective overall hasn't changed at all. I mean, I've been on the other side of that barrel where I looked like somebody. So I've been there,
Hmm.
and in that, in fact, my wife and my sister were both with me when that happened, and scary situation because after the situation had been secured and they had searched us and they had searched the car and they had thrown all my shopping that I'd had done earlier that day all over the car and took it out of the bag and just thrown the clothes all over the place looking for whatever they were looking for, didn't find it, and everybody standing around didn't know what to do. Here comes Officer Barney Fife creeping in,
Oh,
shaking like a leaf, gun in his hand, pointing at the backs of my girlfriend and my wife, who's standing on the opposite side of the car. And at a certain point in time, it became serious. And I
yeah.
told him, I said, "Look, the car's been searched. We've been searched. Why don't you put that gun away before somebody gets hurt?"
And
And
namely him.
well, no, 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 no. He had the gun. I had nothing. We
Like
had
if
nothing.
he was shaking like that, he just shot his own
Well,
himself.
the gun was pointed at the backs of my wife and my
Oh
and,
yeah.
and my
Oh my
sister.
God.
I was on the
Hmm.
street side. They were on the curb side. He was on the sidewalk. So if we had so much as sneezed,
He was gonna shoot.
he was going to be shooting. So he looked at the person who seemed to be in charge, and he nodded for him to go ahead and reholster his gun. he was so upset. He slammed the gun back in his holster and walked away, just like Barney Fife walks. And
Yeah.
at that point in time, I'm livid because now that they know that we aren't who they were looking for, I want answers.
Mm-hmm.
So my perspective hasn't changed. This was back when we were in college at Towson State. So my perspective has not changed. I've always had this perspective.
Wow.
Well,
And that's
I,
frightening. That is absolutely frightening. And it's something you never forget, having a gun pointed at you
No,
by anybody.
right.
It can be 30 years ago that it happened, and you can relive that moment just like it happened. I was a teenager working at a Pizza Hut, and a guy came in and he said, I come to pick up my pizzas. And I turned around to get the pizzas. And I turned back around. He had a large caliber revolver in my face.
Mm,
And I was a teenager. And
wow.
I gave him the pizza. I gave him the money. I gave him whatever he asked for.
Right.
And to this day, I can remember that like it was yesterday. So it is quite unnerving, you know. And then for him to have an attitude like he was mad that he didn't get to shoot somebody that day.
Right. Right. Right.
Oh,
Oh, and not one of those officers
apology.
were black.
apologize.
No
No,
apology
no.
either.
Well, I'm just saying, but not one of them looked like us.
Right. Oh man.
Mm.
And no, they didn't apologize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I
they're not
told
gonna
them
do
whoever
that.
they looking for, they 40 minutes. They got a 40-minute head start on y'all. They gone.
Yeah, whoever you're looking for.
Whoever you're looking for.
Wow.
So, the growing population of new gun owners are black women. Do you have a number of women who are joining your gun club or showing interest? And we started off talking about your wife and the no guns, no dogs rule. How is she slowly coming around, realizing that maybe Galen won't be home one day when something pops off, and she's gonna have to know what to do and to defend herself and the family. Um, what type of how has she how has her transition been, and do you have a lot of women joining your community? Oh, you're laughing a little bit. So what's the story? Oh, oh, okay.
Uh,
So oh, is she right there next to you?
Yeah, headphones on.
oh,
Okay,
okay.
well, if she would like to join the conversation, we love to hear from her.
No, no, it's work related, but
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
it's no. So, but she like I said, she has taken her HQL course. She does have her HQL license, which again allows her to legally handle the firearms that are here. Um, and my goal is to again I'm not gonna inundate her or drag her into a training. I want to allow her to her time to come in, sit in some trainings. Um, I've even had my daughter say she wanted to learn. So
Oh yes.
yes, my
Yes.
goodness,
It's
somebody here.
definitely a family affair. I have a daughter and she's 14 and she goes to the range and she really enjoys it, you know. And she tells her friends, and one of her good friends, her mother is a police officer.
Okay.
And so when she found out that I go to the range, she was like, I knew I liked you, but now I love you. She was like, I didn't know, that you like going to the range. And so I told her, my whole background and how I got into the 2A community. And she's about 5'4", if she's that tall. She's
Hmm,
a tiny woman, and
right.
I'm like, your firearm is just as big as you. And she was like, I was like, how did you, get involved and decide to be a police officer? And she's a minority, a Hispanic lady, and she said, because of the things that were going on in my community,
Mm,
and she said I wanted to impact that in a positive way, so I became a police officer, and she wants to take her children too. So I think it's a good idea for kids to know how and take that curiosity away from them.
Yes.
so that they're not picking it up, wondering what it is and what it'll do, and thinking that this is TV because this is real life. It's
Right.
not TV.
Well, you'd
And
be surprised how many full-grown adults think um, that the guns go pew pew, and I'm like, no, they're
they
much
go
much.
bang bang, pow
That
pow.
that thing you see on 007 called a silencer, it's a suppressor, and it suppresses about maybe 30%. It's still
Hmm.
loud, so don't.
Very.
What you see on TV is strictly for TV only.
Yeah.
To answer your question, you asked earlier, Stephanie. Half of my 200 some odd members of my club are ladies.
Oh, awesome.
That's awesome. In fact, we have a comment from First Line Firearms Academy when we were talking about the interaction with law enforcement. He said, or she said, many times the cops who look like us are worse for
Yes.
Mm,
for some reason.
Hmm.
Maybe they feel like they have to prove
impressive.
something to the white
Mhm.
people who are with
Hmm.
him,
Hmm.
like that. Okay, I'm not a part of them, or I'm gonna be by the
Right,
book no matter who they are. Meanwhile, everybody's bringing all the heat and negative feelings and stereotypes on us.
right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And
That's
I was
right.
thinking that when he said that, I was thinking it, but I didn't say it. I'm glad he said it though. But
That's
that's true.
exactly
I've
right.
ran into more negative black cops than I have Caucasian cops.
Mhm.
In
Yeah.
fact, I had one that she went out of her way to holler at me back in my old Nation of Islam days when I was out in the street with the Final Call newspaper. Got mad at me. The white officer was like, well, what's going on? We got something to do. We got work to do. Let's go down the street and find some criminals. She
Hmm.
was up out the car almost and hollering at me. I said, sis, what are you doing? I,
Right.
your partner don't care. He tried. They eventually went on, but it was kind of crazy.
Just the extra hassle. So what
Yeah.
do you guys have coming up? Coming up, any activities, any trainings,
Oh
or
yeah.
what is your focus right now?
So for me, this is part of my March Madness, and I'm not talking basketball. And
Okay.
so I taught a firearms class. I teach my HQL and my basic handgun simultaneously because some of that information is intertwined, and my HQL is shorter, so I just missed that HQL group and continue with my basic handgun. And
Mm-hmm.
both meet at the range on generally on Monday nights. Um, this past weekend, I taught the concealed carry, or as we call it here in Maryland, the wear and carry. It's a 16-hour course. So basically, I had no weekend. Um, and I just finished that course with a class, small class, but it's a class nonetheless. And the criteria in Maryland generally is well, Maryland is what they call a May issue state. In other words, if you have a business, that's like one of the check boxes that they want you to check off. If you have a business, and if you do a cash business, so that's one of the criteria that this bill, Senate Bill 327, aims to just delete altogether. So they try to make it like all of our other regional neighbors, make
Mm-hmm.
Maryland a shall issue jurisdiction. So anyone that is not, legally barred from having a concealed carry license shall be issued, just like everybody else in the region, to include Washington D.C. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's one thing that I did. So here we are now. Here we are tonight. We're talking about 2A, and tomorrow I have a nurse. She couldn't attend the class because of her schedule. Nurses are in high demand. So I said, well, I'll just do a class for you on Thursday. And she took off on Monday so she can meet me there. And Monday happens to be also our range night. We have range nights on what we call even Mondays at Maryland Small Arms in Upper Marlboro. And we go there from 6 to 8:30 or so. And during that time, even if I don't have students, we go in, we socialize for a while, then we go and shoot. It just so happens that Monday nights are the nights that they offer what they call happy hour, and instead of paying $25 an hour, they only pay 12.50 an hour for the hour. And
Mm-hmm.
we go in, we shoot, and we have a ball. They have a pistol side of the range, and there's also the rifle side. So we go in.
Mm-hmm.
You
So
know what?
what else? What else? What else?
I was going to
No.
ask you how far away, like, do you guys go to the um, outdoor ranges, or you mostly stay in because the area is kind of like you got to drive further to get to an outdoor range?
So outdoor ranges, we've only been to there's a range in La Plata, Maryland called Myrtle Grove. We've only been there once so far. It's our goal to go around to some outdoor ranges, probably more in the Baltimore area, see what's there. And now that we are doing this particular outreach where we're bringing chapters on board, when we bring chapters on board, it's like you having a tentacle going out and Frederick. Now I can reach out there and say, hey, what's out there? Oh, you got this range, that range, because they know what's in Frederick because that's where they live. I don't live in Frederick, so I don't know what's there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the brothers coming on board, he and his son own a outdoor range where he said you can shoot in 180 degrees. I'm like it's in 180 degrees laterally. So steel
Mm-hmm.
target, everything. Um, so we're going to definitely. I've already talked to him about setting up some time to come down there with a few people, and um, we've gone as far north as so far to Glen Rock, Pennsylvania. That's off of exit 8 on I-83, and we've gone south to Carmel Church, Virginia. There was an outdoor range down there. Again, still they had steel targets down there, so we're not afraid to travel. It's just a matter of
Mm-hmm.
that's like a basically a road trip for us. So we
Yeah.
do this every so often.
Right, and this is all on a volunteer um, level. I mean, you're a volunteer, right? Yeah, so
Oh yeah,
that's a lot.
nobody said me.
That's a lot, Galen. We have
Oh yeah, no,
we had owner First Times Academy. One is Cornelius Washneeks, and he's from Detroit. So he's gonna join us for the last few minutes. Hey, so
right?
have a comment or have a question for Galen or us ladies? Okay, we're not hearing you. Is your audio up? Okay, go ahead. I think we can hear you now. No, is anyone hearing him?
No.
Oh, hopefully we're not able to hear you. It's always something, isn't it?
Um.
Technology. So I think
It's it's so
Ask,
smart till it's not smart. Did you
ask him
say
to
something?
say
he was the person who did the comment about the police officers, and he said times he says he's the person in the room who says things that nobody else wants, that they're thinking but don't want to say. And I think he's a truck driver. Are you a truck driver, Meeks?
no security.
No,
Security,
Oh,
armed security.
security.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All
Yes.
right, I see
okay.
the badge and stuff around you.
Yeah,
All
armed
right.
security.
Right. That's SPO.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
All right. We see you. Okay. We hear you now. No, we heard that when you. Yeah, we. You don't have to say anything when you show us name. We hear you.
He got it now.
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
So we'll let Meeks work on his audio. But in the meantime,
Well,
thank you
tell me
for at least
something, Meek,
trying.
Mr. Meek. Do you have the YouTube page open still? if you have the YouTube page still open, close the YouTube and then just remain on the restream, because both of them won't work. Because quite
Okay.
often we
Now,
have,
So I think
there we
see,
go.
there we
There we
go.
go.
Woo!
There you
We can
go.
we
hear
can hear you now.
you. Yes.
Yeah, thank you for helping me with my technical difficulties.
Oh, yes.
No problem.
Yes.
Thanks for
Yeah, good.
joining
No
us. So
problem.
what's your comment or question?
Actually, I didn't have one. I'm just ear hustling right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let us ask you a question. What is your experience in situations such as, with people who are carrying, being armed security? Do you ever come into situations where you know you have to enforce um, the rules and regulations, of wherever you are securing, and you have to come across people who are in violation in one way or another?
I have had those situations in the past.
Hmm.
Currently, at my current position where I'm at now, I have yet to run into any real serious issues. Just a few bad communication issues. But
Hmm.
um, the time where I worked at a public housing apartment building, and
Hmm.
I the full gauntlet of different personalities and individuals, from
Yeah.
mentally ill, disabled, um, drug dealers, low income, and just all around, all types, all of our cousins. I
Right.
experienced it with them for 2 years, and that was very interesting. But nothing. I've yet to have to use lethal force against anybody. Um, at least not in the professional aspect. Personally, I
Hmm.
have had that run.
Hmm.
Just really got into being a firearms type person.
Okay. So you just recently became a an everyday carry person yourself?
Oh no, I've been carrying since
When he said, "Woo," that's
probably.
a long time.
I'm still new, but I've been carrying since 2015.
Okay.
Um, Instructor since 2016.
Okay.
I'm a member of the National African American Gun Association since 2017.
Okay.
So I'm not completely new to guns, but carrying every day, I am still somewhat new compared to some people. And then for others, I'm a veteran.
Right. So, do you have many women that you have given classes for who have obtained their licensing? Yes, majority
More,
women.
yeah. Majority of my students tend to be women and black women
Yeah, we
specifically.
driving the force. We are driving the game right now, for real.
And
You know.
I
So
love
me,
teaching. Yes, sir.
where are you calling from, bro?
I am calling from the great city of Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, okay. Is it your experience that women tend to be better listeners than men?
Yes, yes. Women are better listeners.
Can
My
you say that
dad
loud
says
for the people in the back?
"Uh, we men we slow. We have our
Mhm.
moments,
Mhm.
Well,
but women
I
follow
think
directions better. I would say women are naturally better shooters than men, and it's because of how their brains are wired. You know, women can multitask naturally, whereas for us men, we have to focus, trying to do
Mhm.
more than one thing. It's a job.
well, I think it's more ego and testosterone driven myself because we got
Yeah.
That's all.
we got something to prove.
Mhm.
There you go. Women will tell you, "I don't know what I'm doing. Help," and they will
Yes.
take that
Hmm.
orbit, and I
Right.
and I love it. Don't get me wrong, it's not a completely all women and no men, but there are
Mhm.
some men with the same ability and have that same drive and determination. But like my dad always says, it's the women in our community, and it's sad to say that it's like that, but
It's the women who are able to get the licenses, that are able to pass the background checks.
Right.
It's the jobs and the money to spend. Whereas with most of us black men, we either have a felony or we are, inundated with large amounts of debt, and we don't have the
Mm,
amount of money to get into this thing. It can be a lot of money. You can find ways to cut costs. I tell people,
Hmm.
try not to cut your costs, but don't cut your quality, and don't cut your time.
Exactly.
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 Time, and, that's the difference between it being a hobby and a lifestyle. For me, it's a lifestyle.
And I
You
think
know,
it's that way for all of us. It is definitely a lifestyle. And once you get into it, it's addictive. And this is not a game for the faint of heart. And it is expensive. It is expensive.
but it's a good
You know
expense.
what?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's, yes, it makes sense. It has to make sense for me to spend the money. And you can't tell me none that all of it makes sense to me. I find a way to justify it.
Yep.
It's say a rabbit hole of issues from one thing leads to another thing, and so yeah, it's like where do you but instead of trying to make sense of it all, we really do have to jump in and we can from day to day to help be better at our skills and know that as American citizens, Constitution is for us to take advantage of as well as other people. And so teaching our family and our kids, we could just start ourselves and our immediate community,
Mhm.
and then build those networks so we all can learn from each other. That's what we can do. There's something for everybody in this
It is.
in this fight, in this challenge. So is there anything that you guys want to share that we did ask? Because we have about minutes to go, and then we're gonna have to close it up.
Well, I wanted to just leave my chapter's website. That's
Yes.
www.onyxsharpshooters. That's ONYXSHARP shooters SHOOTERS.com. On that site, you'll find a link or a couple of links. One of those is it says Maryland HQL. The other one says DC HQL in quotation marks because DC does not have an HQL, but they do have a video for any DC residents where they can go watch the video and print up a certificate. Print two, print two. One for you, one for to turn into the Virginia. I'm sorry, the DC police once you set that appointment. All that information is spelled out on their particular website, but definitely want to make two copies of that. So those are the processes.
So can you give me that link again? www.onyx ONYX.
Onyx sharpshooters.
I put it in the chat. So
Okay.
onyxsharpshooters.com is where you can find more about Galen Muhammad and his gun club. And
Yes.
so, Meeks, you want to add anything?
Now, I think you all covered it very well.
Well, we thank
Well,
you for
thanks
being a
so
part of
much.
the show this evening.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
so
sorry.
Meeks was trying to get on last the last show, and we had already. I'm glad you came
Mhm.
back and come back next week. So thank you, Meeks. I'm going to sign you on out. Then we're going to thank Galen for coming and spending time with us, and hopefully we'll send you the link to the final show. You can pass it on to your hundreds of Maryland. They
Mhm.
can see that you are working on their behalf, and so that will hopefully help them to feel more motivated about getting in the chat in the fight as well.
And thanks for inviting me.
Thank you.
No problem. We'll see you another time. Have a good
All right, you did the
one.
same.
Stay safe.
So Phyllis, that was great.
Yes.
Had some callers and had a
Mhm.
caller. So once we get those technical difficulties out of the way, we might have a whole bunch of callers, huh?
Well, yeah, now we know what it is with that. You can't have them both open, and either
Yes,
it's either going to not give us any sound or feedback. So now we know, and I commend him for being in Detroit and doing what he does, because Detroit is a rough city. It is rough, and I can't imagine how hard that job would be.
definitely, definitely. We might
Detroit.
want to have him on as a guest as well. So, who do we have lined up for next week? Anyone?
He said we're not that bad. I don't know. I don't know. When I go to Detroit, honey, I go where I'm going, and they let's go eat. Like, I don't want to go eat. I want to stay in the house.
So,
Um,
do you
Next
have
week we
family
have Stephanie
relatives there?
Marie with Family Ties 2A, because we're getting ready for her all ladies fundamentals training on April the 2nd, and then
Uh,
after that we will have the Texas Tea Competition coming up on Easter Sunday. And so we'll be interviewing with Babu Amawali, who is sponsoring that competition for the all ladies. So it's the year of the woman for 2022. And because like I say, the women, we're driving the game, and so um if the men can't get it done, we definitely will, we
That's
definitely
right. There's something for everybody to do
yes.
in this fight. And so, as a matter of fact, I was looking at something, with the war in where's the oh,
Ukraine.
Ukraine. They
Yeah.
had the housewives and the little kids putting together like fake fences. So with you could, I guess they put up a fence, or it looks like a fence, but they had gray little ties all through the fence to
Mhm.
so you wouldn't be able to see through the fence in case they want to use it as a, a camouflage. I think that's.
Camouflage. Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, okay, so if everybody's doing their little part, sit at the house, put together the little fence, and then give it to the people. So
Right.
there's always something to that you can do. So we
Yeah.
uh, appreciate everybody doing your part, and part of this podcast is you listening and looking, and if there's
Mhm.
something that you want to add, we'd love to have your comments and questions. So feel free to do that. We're going to send out this link on our social media platforms. If you missed the live, you can also always go back and look at it. So until next week, we want you guys to stay safe and stay trained, stay ready for whatever.
Mhm. And stay prepared. Indeed. Everybody have a good rest of their week.
All right, Phyllis, I'll talk to
You
you
too.
later. You have a
All
good one.
right. Take care. Talk to you later.
Bye.